Framelines was a independently produced show created by Mr. Ross and his friends. It was about indie filmmaking.
Every day, more and more people are making movies. Filmmaking has become the new garage band. I'm Johnny DiLoretto, and this is Framelines, the series that aims the lens on those who are out there making movies. Some are backyard Kubricks making movies for fun, and others are aspiring Spielbergs, professionals working hard to make it in the industry.
I'm a self-taught filmmaker. I was heavily influenced by the indie film movement of the 1990s with Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, Richard Linklater. I got a chance to meet one of those heroes, Richard Linklater, in the year 2000. That inspired me to quit my job and become a filmmaker, which I've been ever since. Making short films became my film school. Every time I learned something, I wanted to share that shortcut with people. So I started making instructional videos. In 2010, I partnered with Scott Spears and we co-created the TV show Framelines. That aired on PBS in the state of Ohio. Framelines was a magazine-style show. One of the whole reasons we were doing this was because kind of the rich suburbs would have film and media classes for high school students, but if you're in a rural school or an inner city school, you didn't have that opportunity to learn the basics of filmmaking in high school. And we wanted to offer those kind of educational tools for free.
We made Framelines because we wanted to promote filmmaking in Ohio. We wanted to educate filmmakers with tips. We also wanted to promote filmmaking so that the community, the state of Ohio, know, hey, there's filmmakers out here making movies of quality. And we wanted to promote those filmmakers, so maybe it would encourage investment or at least help in getting more resources to filmmakers in the state. So we could build an active filmmaking community.
Framelines was this amazing show that was on PBS, and it was about filmmaking. It interviewed local filmmakers, it interviewed other local movers and shakers and actors, and it highlighted filmmaking on an independent level. It was just an amazing opportunity for independent filmmakers to showcase what they could do outside of the film festival circuit that the general public doesn't generally get to see.
I've watched an episode of it. It was largely Peter John Ross and various other indie filmmakers talking about themselves, their careers. Interspersed with tech tips. It was essentially I call it like a really terrible Wayne's World.
I have a cyberstalker. There is a man named Matthew Berdyck that's been harassing me for well over a decade.
Mr. Ross can go out in public and say he's not a journalist, he's not an activist, he's not a filmmaker, and he just looks crazy for saying that.
That's why I say Peter is acting in this atrociously self-destructive way, that he's out of control, because no rational human being, no person that was in control of their faculties would act like he's acting right now.
I eventually made a documentary about what he did to other people, not even really about what he did to me in Framelines.
It is the genesis of that. You guys were on filmmaking boards at the same time, and I called you, what did I call you? A PR whore. You can only film these boards and promote your filmmaking. And you guys were on the same boards, and then you start just brushing up against each other. And because you know a lot of people, they know you, and he kept getting fights. The admin would say, hey, stop fighting. Then he'd attack the admins. Boom, he's off the boards. So it's just the origin story.
After being on WOSU, WNEO, and even I think WBGSU, we got on the Ohio channel, and that put us on every PBS station in the state of Ohio on the air.
So that means that it played on the local PBS channel, not national PBS, but the local Ohio Public Broadcasting System channels in Ohio. This show, as far as I'm aware, was funded by grant funding from the Columbus Arts Council. I'm not exactly sure what the full funding structure was.
We never made a lot of money from Framelines. We got a little bit of grant money to make the show, but we were probably making well under minimum wage with the amount of time and effort we put into the show.
Again, we produced this show for $10 of dollars. Nobody was getting rich. We did it because we love filmmaking and love Ohio filmmaking. So yes, we would travel the state and interview different filmmakers on our own dime. We'd go shoot B-roll on their sets.
And it was something we did because of a shared passion for just the process of making films. We just loved showing this.
But Peter and Scott Spears had this show, and I lightly knew that he had a show.
Framelines brought me a lot of additional opportunities. It did bring me some local recognition. I still had a day job at the time, and sometimes people would see me putting books out on the shelves and say, "Hey, didn't I see you on TV?" And I could say, "Yes, you did," which is kind of a rush, especially when you're first starting out. You don't expect, "Hey, didn't I see you on TV?" because you're just getting started. But Framelines did give me that opportunity very early in my career.
It was a pretty random, boring PBS local show.
Framelines garnered a bunch of awards. We got 4 regional Emmy nominations. We won a Telly Award and a couple other Communicator Award and a couple other things like that. And that was really cool. But again, not why we were doing it, but it was nice to be validated.
And so for years, Peter would falsely portray himself as winning a national, Emmy and having this big show that was nationally on PBS. So by leaving out the fact that it was a local show and that it was a regional Emmy, he was misportraying himself.
From the very beginning, the educational videos, the instructional videos on filmmaking, that's what got us the most attention. We got 4 regional Emmy nominations for those instructional videos.
And Peter produced this show, and for this show, he received regional Emmy nominations. Now, these nominations were for Best Instructional Video. He did not win.
So getting to go to the Emmys for Framelines was just such an experience. Getting to meet all kinds of other people in the industry that I wouldn't have been able to meet otherwise. Just getting to be a part of that, the rush, the excitement of something that I was a part of, being nominated for an Emmy.
And so I did what many people do with awards ceremonies. I protested his Emmy nomination.
He began harassing the Ohio Valley Emmy Committee. He was demanding they investigate this or investigate that. He said he was going to hold them accountable. He said he was going to show up to the event and protest in some way that seemed pretty threatening. So they hired additional security.
You said you had contacted the Ohio Valley Emmy Committee about me and my nominations for regional Emmy Awards. Is that correct?
That and other matters unrelated to you, yes.
Okay, I'm going to play Exhibit 85. It's another Twitter Live video.
You never made threats towards the Emmy Committee. No one even knows if they actually hired security. Peter didn't even show up for the event.
I wrote to them about you. I was angry that you pointed into a whole town full of babies. But at the same time, I contacted members of the Emmy Committee individually about the methane spill in Ashland, Kentucky.
Well, you stated in the video that you sent that to the Emmy Committee, correct? To the Emmys themselves. You talked about Ashland, Kentucky, and you also talked to them about me allegedly killing babies. Is that correct?
It was paraphrasing, I believe.
I'm going to bring up Exhibit 18. On July 23rd, 2015, sent to with the Ohio Valley Emmys from Matthew Berdyck, Matthew.A.Berdyck. It says, "Okay then, apparently I need to publicly disrupt your entire award ceremony and hold each member of the Emmy Committee publicly and personally responsible for nominating a cyber predator for an Emmy and intentionally and directly ignoring what is happening, which make your staff a part of the ongoing cycle of abuse." Did you send that email, sir?
I don't remember.
It also says here, if Peter does happen to win an Emmy, we have a public education campaign plan using targeted social media campaigns directed at every member of the Emmy committee in the country. Did you send that email, sir?
Yeah. I do recall telling him that is how I fight. In particular, that's how I engage in my constitutionally protected activity. It almost seems like to me that you keep doing things and getting consequences and you don't acknowledge what you're doing.
You stated in the video, sir, that you don't know if I attended the event. Is that correct?
I remember you writing something stating that you didn't go. That's all I remember. That was your words.
Okay. And you also stated that you didn't even know if they hired additional security?
No, I didn't know that, and they never confirmed that. And
Here is an email on...
Well, it's one show. You can't really trust anything you say.
Here on July 30th, 2015 is the email received from stating, this is the email that prompted us to add a full security detail to our event. We considered it more of a direct threat, as did the police department and Keeneland Security. And also, you do realize that the reason I did not attend the Emmys that one year was specifically because you threatened to be there. Do you understand that, sir?
I have a right to protest an Emmy, and if you're too afraid to show up in your own protest, that's not really my problem.
In Peter's interview, he talks about why he lost his show, which was called Framelines. And he says that it was because I contacted where the show was aired over 400 times, and they deleted his show because they didn't want to deal with me. But I have never contacted anyone associated with his show. Never. I'd had no... matter of fact, I didn't even know only until a couple months ago where his show aired.
I got a phone call from the Ohio channel, from the program director, who said, we're getting a bunch of emails from this Matthew Berdyck guy again. And he said, he's making pretty serious allegations against you, calling you a pedophile, and saying he's going to run an online campaign saying that we support a pedophile if we continue to show Framelines. And then he directly said, we don't believe him, we just don't want to deal with him. So we're canceling Framelines.
They just didn't want to deal with him. Except for, here's the problem. I never contacted the network.
I have never contacted anyone associated with his show. Never. I had no communication with the Ohio channel.
They simply stated, we're not going to show your show anymore on the Ohio channel. I didn't get the show canceled. I didn't have anything to do with it.
What's strange about that is Framelines had nothing to do with Matthew Berdyck or what eventually became the Social Media Monster documentary series. So I never understood exactly why he attacked Framelines. Was it jealousy? Was it this deep-rooted envy? Was it just being sadistic and wanting to hurt me? I've never understood why he went so hard after Framelines.
In the tech tip land, we wanted to educate beginning filmmakers the basics of filmmaking, and that's gone. That door is shut. And it was free to them. If they had cable or whatever, they could get those things.
It wasn't even cable. It was on the air.
Yeah, broadcast.
It was broadcast, so everybody had access to the show,
Yeah.
and it was taken away.
Because a petty man got mad at us. I'm mad at them, and I want to hurt them. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a lie, and I'm going to frighten an organization to take us off the air.
I think that there were a lot of people involved in the production of this show. You would have people like Dino, who was a part of it as far as I'm aware. You'd have people like Peter John Ross and Scott Spears, other different, this Jocelyn Tannis, and maybe other people that have been involved in making public allegations against me, right? They all want to get revenge because their show was taken away.
Framelines was a powerful educational tool. It was something that was available for free for filmmakers who otherwise didn't necessarily have access to this knowledge and this ability to learn new skills. And because of one man, because of Matthew Berdyck, it's gone.
I think people were disappointed that he lost his show. I think the people involved in it were disappointed that he lost his show. I think that when they lost it, I think they needed someone to blame, and I happened to be standing there.
I feel like losing Framelines was it was a huge hit to filmmakers all over the world, but especially local filmmakers who relied on Framelines to get exposure, who relied on Framelines to learn how to do new things and expand their craft, and networking and marketing and just all of the things that Framelines brought to the local industry, and it was all gone.
All of our hard work, all of that effort, all those years of working on the show, just gone in an instant.
His ego won't allow him to be slighted, so he's going to spend his time fighting with people instead of being productive. And it's just sad. It's pathetic.
It came back to the beginning for me as my beginning roots as a filmmaker. I didn't think it was possible till I got to see my heroes making films. And meeting Richard Linklater really made me feel like I could really do this. And all I wanted to do was that infectious energy, I wanted to give it back to the world. I was hoping it would inspire someone else at some point. And Matthew Berdyck took that away.
And so again, we have Peter crying about something. This is so deranged. He's screaming and crying and having a temper tantrum over a show that I had nothing to do with getting canceled. I have nothing to do with getting that show canceled. I had no part in that. I imagined that they had their own reasons for canceling it. I didn't even know that it was f***ing canceled. It's when you dig deeper into these allegations and you find that I didn't actually do anything to these people, that Peter's just making up fake victims and stories.
The singular reason Framelines was taken off the air was because of Matthew Berdyck's contacts. No one anywhere had any complaints about the show. He just wanted to take something away from me, and it worked. It's just shocking how easily it is to just bend to the wishes of a cyber terrorist, which just encourages them to try harder.
It's been over 10 years since we shot some of those, and still to this day, filmmakers, film students, sometimes in other countries, I've gotten contacts from Europe and India and all over the place where they have found Framelines. There are actually thousands of recuts and re-edits of the original footage that I did for Framelines and Cinestudy. And it's just fascinating to see what they do with them. They take them different directions. Sometimes they just change the color. Sometimes they recut the dialogue. And it's just always fascinating to see the students playing and having fun and learning how to make films.
He just took that all away from everybody and doesn't seem to have the slightest hint of regret or remorse for hurting everybody.
He's even a fake victim. And that this is all just a revenge plot.
I'm definitely not seeking revenge. So my overwhelming feeling is more a sadness.
I think that they took his show off the air because he's a habitual cyber predator, and I think that he blamed me because he needed a scapegoat. And I think that all of the people that are in Columbus that were associated with that show, that would appear on it or do whatever, they are pointing the finger at the wrong person. I think they're blaming me, and I didn't have anything to do with it.
You don't have to compete with Ross and tear down Ross or anybody else. Just put your film out there and people will find it. And if you're brilliant, they'll come to you and throw money at you, say, make more brilliance. And he doesn't, because he's a failed filmmaker.
I'm very proud of what we were able to achieve with Framelines, but thanks to Matthew Berdyck, it's gone.
when I see Peter John Ross and he's out there and he's like, oh, I'm going to destroy this cancer campaign and I'm going to harm all these black people just to save my stupid, Framelines TV show that nobody gives a about, that helps him make an extra $100 every once in a while. I see how selfish and ridiculous and absurd it is that he thinks that's important, that he thinks he's somehow doing something for people.